So today we're going to review service purchases. So what are service purchases? Basically, in our plan, a month of service helps to vest you in our retirement plan, and it also has a dual purpose of defining what your retirement benefit will be. So you earn a month of service every time you work, but in addition to that, you can also purchase them. And for and a lot of people like to do that because it can either increase your benefit at your normal retirement age, or it can sometimes help you meet your rule to get out of work earlier. So meeting normal retirement sooner, increasing your monthly benefit, and for those that have a tier 1 or 2 defined benefit plan, it can also increase what's called your retiree health insurance credit. That retiree health insurance credit is determined as $5 for every year that you work. So anytime you increase service, you increase that health credit as well. So our formula for retirement is years of service times your final average salary times your benefit multiplier. So again, the reason that folks look at buying service is because it can either increase their benefit or it can help them meet their rule to leave work earlier, or a lot of times it can do both. You can purchase different types of service. Once you're vested in our plan, and vesting means that you have 36 months of service or you're age 65, you can buy up to 5 years of service. When you leave employment, you can buy unused sick leave. While you're actively employed and before you're vested, if you can buy previous public service. You can buy up to 48 months of military. If you had a leave of absence, let's say you went out on family medical leave and it was unpaid, you can purchase that service. If you ever cashed in your North Dakota state service, you can repurchase that. Or maybe you worked for another state pension plan, you can purchase that as well. Any federal service or legislative service. This is really important to note about these previous public employments under number 3, though. If you purchase service associated with another retirement plan, then you have to deplete that retirement plan. Otherwise, it's considered double dipping. So a lot of times, if people are interested in maybe buying service from, say, state of Minnesota, and they're vested in that plan, maybe they've got 10 years of service, I'll ask them, what does that benefit look like from there? Are you sure you want to cash that in? Maybe instead you'd like to look at buying generic service. Another common question we get is folks don't often realize that they can buy as many types of these services as you see on your screen. So if I had military service, I could buy that. Let's say I had some cashed in North Dakota service, I could buy that. Something from state of Minnesota, I could buy that. And then in addition, I could buy another 60 months of generic. So you can buy as much of these types of service as you're eligible for. So when and how much? What's the timing here? Typically, it's less expensive to purchase service earlier in your career. And that's because the way we calculate a service purchase is we look at how old are you? How close are you to retirement? How much do you make? And then it pops in an actuarial figure. So the younger you are and further away you are from retirement, the less salary you're making, the less expensive your purchase is going to be. Conversely, if you wait till the end of employment and purchase, then typically it's going to be more expensive for all those same reasons. Now, I've got folks that will sometimes want to kick themselves for not purchasing when they were younger and they first started. And the reality is it may be cheaper to buy it when you're younger, but you have to wait longer to see that, to reap that reward. Whereas if you purchase it at the end of your career, it may be more expensive, but you get to draw sooner. So pros and cons to both. Now you can run your own cost estimates out on member self-service. If you decide that you want to move forward with the purchase, you're going to need to send in a request for an official purchase contract from us and all the associated forms. But sometimes people just want to know, hey, what's it look like? You can run it based on months. You can try to get close to a dollar amount you want to purchase with. And then I really think that it's important if you're going to do that, because this is what we're going to do when we send you the contract, is run a benefit estimate with it and without it, because you need to figure out, how much am I investing? Is it worth it? Because a lot of people have told me that, you know, that Joe at the water cooler says it's a whole bunch of money, and it really is sometimes. But what you're trying to figure out is, where do you get the most bang for your buck? Is it a good investment for you? So you need your own money and your own money. You need your own numbers. Okay. So here's an example. So let's say that my benefit, based on my years of service times my final average salary times my benefit multiplier, um, equals a single life benefit of 25/40/20 up here. Now, because I'm married, I'm going to have joint and survivor options. And that's an actuarial decrease based on my age and gender, spouse age and gender. So let's just compare the 100% joint and survivor. So I'm leaving in September 2022, and I'm not buying anything. I'm at normal retirement. And so my benefit is $2,304.98. My health credit based on my years of service is 108.33. Now, if I look at the right, I've decided, well, you know what, I'm going to beef up that retirement. I'm going to buy 5 more years of service. So I'm using the service not to get me out of work earlier necessarily, but to increase my benefit. So now, because I've added 5 more years of service into my benefit formula, my benefit has increased 28.36.90, and it also is increasing my health credit to 133.33. So I've got another $556.92 a month in my pocket for the rest of my life. Now, these are all examples, guys. So, this cost that I'm projecting here is an example. Everybody's cost is going to be different. But let's say that cost me $66,721.92. That's a lot of money, but it's also a lot of gain. So what I like to do is look and see, well, how long does it take me to get my money back? And so in this case, almost 10 years. Well, what's my health like? How old am I? What other investments do I have? And then I think a really important question to ask, the one that I like to ask, is, if I invested that $66,000 somewhere else, and I said, hey, professional investment person, I want you to immediately start paying me $556 a month for the rest of my life, out of whatever, however you want to invest that. And if I die, I want you to continue to pay my spouse $556. Can you do that? Can you invest that 66,000 in such a manner and guarantee that monthly distribution stream? So that's how I view service purchase. Now, again, if you're just interested in what your numbers are, you can just go out to member self-service and run them. If you decide that based on that's of interest to you and you want the official deal, then you can request an online service purchase. You can submit the old school form, SFN 53718. And then we will run these numbers and we'll send it to you along with the correct forms and your benefit estimates. So you can do a comparison that way as well. It usually give us a week or two to get these to you. Okay, be specific in your request. Is there a number of months you want to purchase? Or maybe you say, hey, I have 20,000. How much can I buy with that? Because remember, you can buy things in increments. Let's say my goal is to buy 5 years, but I've only got X amount of dollars right now. I can buy as much as I can with those dollars and then come back and buy some more later. Now, pros and cons. Now, the pro is that I've got the money in my pocket to buy it today. The con is that that same 20,000 that I might spend a year from now is probably going to buy me fewer months. If I'm buying previous public service, okay, whether it's state, fed, legislative, whatnot, I need or PERS needs those specific dates of service so we can run them. And also, if you're buying other previous service, we're going to require an additional form for that because we need validation that it meets our requirements for purchase. And again, remember, and this is really important, if you're going to buy previous public service, any retirement account you have associated with those service months has to be depleted. So if you decide that this is something that you want to do and we send you this information, you're going to have 90 days from the date that we run it to finish your purchase. If you don't do anything, it's just going to expire. We're not going to contact you. If you decide to move forward, we do expect that all the completed forms and funds are received by the deadline date. If you decide that you are purchasing service and you're going to leave employment prior to 90 days. So let's say I run it today and you get 90 days, but you're going to leave at the end of November, then your service must be paid in full by the 15th of December. There are multiple ways you can buy service. So one of the things that you're going to do in the form is tell us how you want to pay for it. You can purchase it with an after-tax payment. So you just write us a check. You can purchase with a payment plan. You could do a payroll deduction, but we are going to charge 7%. If you decide to do a payroll deduction and you do it pre-tax, before taxes, then down the road, if you have a windfall and you have some more money, you can't throw it towards that purchase because you cannot change the terms of the purchase contract because it is pre-tax. Now, if you do an after-tax payroll deduction and you decide that you want to pay it off quicker, you sure can. One thing that I want to mention about pre and post-tax payments, this is a common question. Am I going to get taxed again on this? So let's say that I buy $20,000 worth of service. I write a personal check. It's already been taxed. When I start receiving my monthly benefit, that portion that's already been taxed will not be taxed again. The other thing is the retirement portion that you pay for goes into your member account balance. It's earning 6.5% interest. When you start drawing your benefit, the interest stops and we're going to start paying you out of that fund. So another common question might be, wow, what if I expend these funds to prepare for my retirement, increase it, or get closer to my rule or whatnot, and I pass away? Well, that money is basically you're self-funding. So the retirement portion of that purchase is going into your member account. So it's not lost. There is a health credit portion of your purchase that goes into an entirely different fund. And so that is not going into your member account. The health credit portion is significantly less than the retirement portion. So you can purchase with a combination. You could do a rollover from an eligible plan. And the nice thing about doing that is that you're sending it from one pre-tax qualified plan to another. So you're not withdrawing those funds and getting hit with withholding and then you have less money. You're just rolling it from one plan to another. That's a good thing. You could do a combination of that, make payments, pay off the balance. The rollover portion, again, pros and cons to everything. You're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. So you want to make sure that at the end of the day, Paul's going to produce more money for you than Peter. So, those are just things to think about. But using pre-tax qualified funds are certainly an option. And then you can see here on the right that these are some of the funds that we can accept. Okay. So this is kind of an example of what a purchase contract looks like. So if you requested one from us, it would look similar to this, depending on if you're doing a rollover or if you're going to make payments or whatnot. The appropriate forms would be in there, but the upper body, those first two paragraphs, are going to be similar in all instances, and we're going to say, hey, the cost to buy your 60 months is $59,522. If you're in a tier 1 and a tier 2 plan, then what you're going to see is that we're going to divide this into two different amounts. This $56,395 is funding the retirement portion. That's the portion that you can roll funds from a qualified plan if you want. We'll always accept your after-tax dollars, but you can only roll up to this amount of a pre-tax qualified plan, 401k, 403b, your 457 plan. Now, this $3,104.25 is funding the health credit portion, and that has to be paid with after-tax dollars. So you need to write a personal check for that. One of the forms that we will send every time is called a purchase payment election form. And what this form is doing is basically you're returning it to us and saying, yep, I want to do this. And this is how I plan to pay for it. So if you are purchasing any of the generic or previous public service, you're always going to mark other. Part A will be pre-filled with your information. And then we'll say, maybe you want to just write a check and you're going to mark lump sum. Maybe you want to roll over money from an eligible plan. In that case, you'd mark rollover. And we want to know how many rollovers, because you could use multiple rollovers. Maybe you want to do a monthly payment or quarterly or semi-annual or annual. Remember, these are the payments, though, where I'm saying it's 7% interest. So, and then down in Part D, we want to know, hey, are you going to, be retiring soon? Yes or no? The reason we care is because what if I ran this purchase for you and my purchase contract says 90 days, but you're leaving at the end of the month? We just want to know that this needs to be paid sooner. And then we want to know the number of months you're purchasing. If you are doing a lump sum payment or a rollover, you're going to well, in all cases, actually, you're going to sign and date Part F as in Frank. But if you're doing any kind of a payroll deduction, any of these in the green, you will also sign here in Part E as an elephant. This will cause us to send you another form. And yeah, we like forms. We're the government. And this one is an agreement basically that that you're going to give to your employer so that they can start making those payroll deductions if you choose to do that. Or if you're just going to write us an after-tax check, then we would not need that form. We can also do what's called an amortization schedule. You have 15 years to pay off a contract if you're still actively employed. And so, we can run those for you as well. Okay. Look at me, I'm ahead of myself. I've already gone through Part D, E, and F, but this is really how you complete the rest of that form. Okay, now let's say that you decide you want to do a rollover, okay? Now remember, you can roll over the retirement portion of the purchase, but not a health credit. So what you're going to get from us, if you've told us that's what you want to do, is this form. We will have already pre-completed Part A as an apple. We will put the maximum amount of rollover funds that you can roll to us right here in Part A. You can roll less than that, but you can't roll more, not even a penny more, or we're going to have to return the funds. Then in Part B, you're going to mark what kind of an account it is. You're going to fill out the plan provider. Is it Waddell and Reed? Is it TIAA? Is it, is it another provider through another state? You're going to put the amount of the rollover here. Remember, you can only put as much as we have in Part A. You cannot exceed it. Then you're going to sign and date it and put your phone number. Then you're going to have your plan custodian, the one that's the holder of your money, complete Part C. So really the gist of this form is this. We're saying, hey, if you want to roll over Part A, this is how much you can send us. In Part B, you're going, yep, that's what I want to do. And it's this kind of plan, and I'm authorizing it because it's my account. And then you're saying to the plan custodian, I'm authorizing you to send this to PERS, and PERS wants you to verify that indeed I have this account and it is that type of account. And then they are going to sign and date as the plan administrator down here. Now, if you're using 457 state of North Dakota funds, my boss has to sign off here above it. If you are using 457 state of North Dakota plans from the North Dakota Companion Plan, TIAA, then you know what? You can just fill out Part B and we'll get TIAA signature here. So we just talked about service purchase, generic, previous public, military, those types of services that you buy while you're actively employed. But wait, there's more. We also have an option when you leave to convert unused sick leave. And this one is really confusing for folks. And I think it's because it feels like you get your cake and you get to eat it too, right? So let me caveat this section by saying, if your employer, and if you're a state of North Dakota employee and you've been there 10 or more years, they will pay out 10% of your sick leave. Some of our cities and counties and school folks that are in our plan, they may have different agreements about how much of their sick leave is paid out or not paid out. Anyway, that's between you and your employer. We don't, it's not coming out of our payroll, it's not our budget, it's not our agreement, and we don't care. You're going to get paid out your sick leave from your employer per the agreement that you and your employer have. The purchasing of unused sick leave is something that's simply tied to our retirement plan. And frankly, the only reason we use sick leave is because it's a level playing field. If you come to me with 300 hours, you're going to be able to buy about 2 months. If somebody comes to me with 1,000 hours, they might be able to buy 5 or 6. So the more sick leave you have left, the more you can purchase from us. So again, it's just a level playing field. It's just a number, a starting number for us to work with. This is done upon leaving employment. And I want to mention, upon leaving employment is not necessarily upon retirement, because let's say that my intention is to defer my retirement because I'm going to go do something else. Maybe I'm not eligible to draw yet, but I'm leaving employment in this plan. I have the option to purchase my unused sick leave before I leave. That doesn't mean I have to start drawing my benefit. If I want to start drawing my benefit right away, of course, I have the option to purchase it then as well. Now, I need to make sure that if I'm going to do this, that I have this form unfiled no later than the month in which I'm leaving. If we get it the month after, you're out of luck. The other thing I want to mention about this too, and we're going to get into how we calculate cost, is that, and this has to do with what I mentioned at the beginning, whatever your employer pays out, that's between you and them, nothing to do with PERS. And the way they pay it out and the amount they pay out is based on your salary, that's between you and them. The way we're going to determine the cost to buy service is a totally different calculation. So one number doesn't equal the other number. Okay, so here's an example of a person that has decided to buy their unused sick leave. So in this case, they've decided that they're going to purchase that unused sick leave and it's going to increase their benefit by $65.79 a month. Same deal. And we can see this because look, our years of service have been increased from 19.25 to 19.6667. Now, if I look at cost and benefit, right, I can see that if my final average salary was $7,643 and I were buying 5 months of unused sick leave, that it would cost me $5,832. Again, I'm looking at how long does it take me to recoup my investment, 7.3, 9 years. And then I'm also asking myself, hey, is there a better use for this $5,832? Can it produce more from me somewhere else? So our conversion formula for sick leave is your number of hours divided by 173.3, and then we round it up, okay? So this 4.0 has been rounded to 5 months. And so in that previous example, that was 5 more months of service that that person was purchasing. Cost, again, final average salary times my plan contribution rate, 15.26%, times my months of service equals my cost, $5,832. Now remember, and this really, I do just really want to emphasize this. Sometimes people think that their employer is going to pay out their sick leave and then just send that money to us to buy this service. But remember, they're two separate things, two totally separate things. Your sick leave payout is between you and your employer. Buying your unused sick leave is between PERS and you. And the only reason that we're using your sick leave is because it's, like I said, that level playing field. If you have 1,000 hours and I have 300 hours, you're going to be able to buy more than me. To start this process, and again, if you're retiring, there's a whole bunch of forms you do, one of which is this conversion of unused sick leave. If you are just leaving employment and deferring your retirement, but you want to purchase that unused sick leave before you go, then you're going to fill this form out by itself, along with the deferred comp or the deferred retirement form. So, in review, complete that form no later than your last month of employment. And then what happens is closer to the end of employment, we're going to reach out to your employer and we're going to verify how many sick leave hours you have. Based on that, we're going to calculate your purchase and we're going to send your request for payment. We're going to send that along with the applicable forms. And then that will be due to ND PERS by the 15th of the month after you leave. So sick leave purchases, if I left in December of this year, I would need to have my form on file no later than December. I would get my request for payment towards the end of December, and then my payment would be due in full along with all of the correctly completed paperwork by January 15th. So this looks, this is the conversion of unused sick leave form that I just mentioned in the previous slide. So this is how it would be filled out. You would fill out Part A, and then you would put your number of hours here in Part C and how many that converts to. Then we want to know, how do you want to pay for it? If you're just going to write us a check, you're just going to mark Part D, and then you're going to pop down to Part G as in gorilla and sign and date it. If you want to roll over money to us, you're going to mark Part E, and then we want your employer to fill out Part F as in Frank, and then you sign Part G. Payment methods, and this works the same way as the other types of purchases. You can use any kind of pre-tax qualified funds from a 403B, 457, 401k, IRA. You can write us a check, and then of course we will send the correct forms for your purchase. That is purchase in a nutshell.